to a different God, which invariably will lead to some degree of conflict. And as you look at the globe and then put it in the context, again, of what we're going to be able to see with all this technology about where water is going, where we are losing it, and what that will mean in terms of global migration, of which we are seeing the largest amount of global migration that we have seen in generations, and what that might lead to in terms of conflict. It is very real. And so these issues are all connected, and in that way, water policy is one of the factors that when we address it with an intentionality and intensity, we will invariably have an impact on a lot of residual and related issues. Because, you know, when we have the ability to map it and have the data, one of the things, I'm going to Africa at the end of the month, and this is going to be one of my areas of focus, is climate resilience and adaptation. And with this satellite technology, what we can do if we collect the data in a way that is accessible to everyone, not just people who have a PhD, but people who are equally, if not even smarter, who are farmers, giving people access to that technology, that data, so they can then make decisions about when they are planting their crops and what kind of crops to plant, right? So again, these things are all connected in a very important way with multiple layers in terms of impact.
This is something that I think about most immediately, the effects in Colorado.
Yeah.
In the 7th District, it goes all the way to Buena Vista and Salida through Chaffee, all the way to the mountain communities. The Arkansas River is the lifeline there. Mm-hmm. And so they completely rely on the diversion of the Colorado River. Yeah. And we know that we are in a dire position right now with the lack of water. And so you give me hope with what you were highlighting with the new technologies that will be coming about that we can actually utilize to address some of these issues. But I think about the farmers who are there right now who are already going to be facing some of this.
Right.
Well, so the next question, as a mom, and I know there's a lot of moms in the room today. Can I actually get a show of hands for all the moms that are here? Look at that. All right. Well, thank you all for taking time out of your day, being here on a work day, and also coming during what is, for many of us, our kids' nap time. I want to get, Davis is currently sleeping back here. If you could raise your hand, my amazing husband who makes this work possible. Love you so much. And I wanted Davis to raise his hand, but he is dreaming over there. So Davis is only 3, and I'm terrified not just about what his future looks like with the climate crisis, but what the immediate health impacts are for him and for families like ours. You know, growing up in Jefferson County, we were always outside, playing in the foothills and the mountains, going to soccer practice and tournaments. And now I see alerts on the news stations about days where it's unsafe. It's recommended that kids do not go outside, where they have games canceled because of how unsafe our climate is. And so, you know, it is something the most vulnerable communities who are already have the odds stacked against them and have the worst health outcomes because of the environment they're exposed to every day. This also impacts not just kids, but also moms, and especially during their pregnancies. And so I know that you've done a lot of work on maternal health, and can you talk about the intersection of the climate crisis and maternal health?
It's very significant. So in the United States of America today, Black women are 3 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth. Native women, Native women twice as likely, and rural women 1.5 times more likely in connection with childbirth in America today. And there are a number of issues as it relates to Black women, for example. It is well documented and the data bears it out. It has nothing to do with her socioeconomic or educational level. It literally has to do with she is walking in that emergency room or clinic or doctor's office, and she's just not taken as seriously, and this is a racial bias issue. But it is also, for all of these groups of women, an environmental issue. And the environmental issue is that there are certain unique stressors that certain women demographically face that obviously will have an impact on their health and their pregnancy. And so, for example, take for example anything from lead pipes to some of the work that we are doing now that I'm also very excited about around electric vehicles and what that will mean. Electric school buses, right? 25 million children a day go to school on a school bus in America, and over 90% of them are diesel fueled, which means not only are those children inhaling those fumes, the bus driver is inhaling those fumes. Whoever is in the educational ecosystem is inhaling those fumes, right? So what it means in terms of a workplace safety issue for that bus driver, not to mention the children or whoever is standing there as the kids are boarding the bus or getting off the bus. And that's a health issue, and that's a health issue for that mom who is pregnant and has other children. An issue is, I know it's particular, I think Denver has the third highest issue with urban heat zones, right? And so what that means in terms of just people who live in concrete areas where there are no trees. It's so basic, right? If you live in a climate that gets very hot and there's no shade, or it's all concrete, and all of us know what that means on a hot day to walk. It's hotter. Yeah. And those are stressors. Those have an impact on the health and well-being of an individual. So the work that I've been doing on maternal health, in particular to reduce maternal mortality, is one, to elevate the issue and to make sure we talk more about it. Again, interconnection, intersection, right, between issues. It includes teaching people in the system around that pregnant woman to appropriately diagnose what is going on in her life to figure out how there can be accommodation and support for her. You know, one of the things that I'm doing there is I had a bill when I was in the Senate to say that we need to train doctors and nurses and medical health professionals to understand and better understand what pregnant women experience and understand it from a culturally competent way. I wrote into the legislation that some of the best trainers of that for medical health professionals will be doulas, right? Who really understand quite well and are some of the most trusted in the healthcare delivery system to be able to do that work. But there's a real connection between issues like maternal health and what is happening in terms of our climate, pollution, toxic air, and what we can do better. So there's that. But I want to get back to Sasha for a minute, because you have such an incredible career.
Thank you.
And points of distinction in terms of what you have done, being the first in so many ways. And you have been an activist and very vocal, using your platform as a outstanding athlete to also talk about climate. Why? What got you to do this?
I think I will replay that moment. This is being filmed right over and over again. I think that's my career highlight, right there. Thank you. I'm here, and I really love that every one of you out here is here, because we live in Colorado. It is home to such an incredible amount of beautiful landscapes, outdoor recreation. You go outside. I go outside every morning. I've made a ritual of hiking to the top of the mountain with my dog, Miss Chaga. And every morning, wow, I pretend like I'm on a phone call in an office and not losing my breath. But I'm so thankful. I feel the dirt under my feet, and I look out at this beautiful sunrise, sometimes later than sunrise, and I think, what gratitude I have for this. And going back to being 6 and going to my brother's birthday party is how I started climbing. I didn't know what climbing was, but it ended up being my conduit to learn about the world in such a diverse set of ways. And when you travel for climbing, you're living with you're camping often. You're living like down on the earth with whatever local community there is, and you're getting to know people, and you're getting to know the planet. And I think that the reason that I'm here and really trying and truly honored to be in both of your presence and all of you is because we should care. Like, nature is our natural playground, so let's protect it. Nice. But coming back to the off of me, you know, I am an optimistic person, and that's been a big route that's gotten me through my career, is trying to stay positive and optimistic through hard times. And it's without a doubt, our climate is going through a hard time. Yeah. And it's now or never is what I feel, and I think all of us could agree, but you have so much on your plate, and there are so many big issues to implement, and there are so many policies that feel like they need to be implemented in order for our climate to thrive and to survive. So how do you keep a positive perspective and stay hopeful?
Look, I mean, and I mean that. Look at, like, just everyone look around for a minute. It's incredible. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. And I remain hopeful because I've seen in my life that things that people, perhaps some people couldn't imagine, but others could because they believed in it, that these things happen. That, you know, I feel so strongly that one should never be burdened by anyone's limited ability to understand what's possible, right? Like, don't let that burden you ever. That's other people's issues. We have to have the ability to see what can be and then go for it. And I promise you, and in particular to the young leaders and the youngish leaders, all of us, right, at every stage of youth that we are in here, we can't ever stop imagining in what is possible, because we have seen that when we believe in something and we know it is right and good, we can create it, we can build it, and we can do it. And so, you know, electric vehicles, electric school buses. I have been visiting places in the United States of America where we are manufacturing electric school buses, and they are really cool. You know, I mean, and in fact, I think that we are on track, on the road, to, it's awful, it's just awful, to being actually a global leader in the manufacturing, the building and manufacturing of electric buses. And so what is that? That's about the creation of a whole new industry. It's about a workforce. Again, I'm going to give a plug, because that has to be done, to union labor and what that means in terms of the training and the building of that work. And so when we're talking about, you know, that workforce, then we're talking about good paying jobs with good benefits and a pension and the ability to buy a home and take your family on vacation, you know, once a year. And so there is just so much that is happening right now that gives me a sense of optimism. And, you know, I grew up, my mother probably is the first real optimist that I ever knew. My mother had 2 goals in her life: to raise her 2 daughters, my sister Maya and me, and to end breast cancer. My mother was a breast cancer researcher. And she would take us with her, because she worked long days and long hours and weekends, and she'd take us with her to the lab from time to time, after school and on weekends. And she believed in what could be and just kept working at it and made a couple discoveries. And I just believe in that. And I think that's what makes us a country of innovators and leaders and believers and dreamers and doers, right? I mean, we should as a new member of Congress, you're seeing this then from that perspective, but you have a career before you got to the United States Congress of being a leader on so many of these issues. What motivates you?
Well, I think it changes over time. For me, I started getting involved to level the playing field for regular people like me, and it was this community that gave me a chance. But when it comes to addressing climate change, it's something that we all grew up learning about, but it felt like no one was doing anything. And it always was talked about it's our obligation for the next generation, instead of, it is going to impact us all in our lifetime. And I think that we have to stop just talking about our obligation for the next generation. And believe me, that motivates me more than anything now, having a young son. But we need to talk about what is happening now and what is going to get exponentially worse if we don't act. But I do have hope with leaders like you who have actually are starting to move us in the right direction, that we can rise in this moment and step up in a way that we need to save our planet.
And be better. Like, we're saving something, but we're also going to be better. We're creating, we're innovating. You know, it's exciting. It's not only like, hey, let's throw out the life raft and everybody just pull it in, you know. We're actually creating new things, new ways of doing things. And that's very exciting.
Absolutely. And, you know, this has just been a surreal day, something that I'll remember forever. And I just want to thank you so much, Madam Vice President, for joining us in Jefferson County and in Colorado. And Sasha, thank you for your leadership and advocacy and being such an inspiration as well. Clearly, the Biden and Harris administration is delivering for the United States of America. And I am so excited to be a partner with you in Congress to work on these issues. And so before we conclude, thank you all for coming, and I would just want to turn it back to Madam Vice President for any closing remarks.
Well, okay, so I mentioned space before. So I have had the privilege of, from time to time, while on Earth, talking with our astronauts while they're in space. And I have almost to a one asked them, what about your travel there and being there, if anything, has changed your perspective about Earth? And almost to a one, they say how beautiful it is when they look at Earth from space, and how delicate it is, how fragile in its beauty. And so I would close us out by just saying that we all know some of the most precious things are fragile, and that's why we pay special attention to take care of them. And so let's continue to do that. Thank you all.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.